Welcome. This is Seek Sustainable Japan, and our sub series we try to do once a month called Short Takes with Joy and Tova. So I'm JJ Walsh, Joy in Hiroshima, Japan, joined by.
Hi, I'm Tove Kinoka here in Yokohama, just outside Tokyo.
And it is getting warmer. Is it getting warmer there, Tova?
Yes, actually today it's dropped back down a bit, but I think the last couple of days it's been up 27, 28 degrees, so really warm for this time of year.
Yeah, which brings me to my first topic. Especially in travel, I've been so encouraged by a lot of the people I've been guiding in Hiroshima. They're saying that the agents who book their tours are giving them reusable bottles, but many of them have to give up. When they come, they say they can't find places to refill.
Hmm.
So I thought this would be a perfect time to mention the good work of MyMizu and the whole issue of why we should drink tap water instead of bottled plastic water. I am so tired of like stations and tourist information centers telling me and my guests to go fill up in the toilet sink. No, that is not acceptable. Or go buy a plastic bottle. No, not acceptable. We know there's more microplastics in plastic water bottles. It's not as healthy. It creates waste. Plus, we're having the issue of no garbage cans anywhere. So then you're creating more stress for the visitor and more hassle to deal with garbage. So there's so many win-win-wins about this. Now, you had a great example in Singapore, right?
Yes, so I was in Singapore a few weeks ago for business, walked into the Hilton where I was staying, and this sticker was prominently displayed on the mirror in the bathroom there. So there were bottles, glass bottles of water available in the room as well. But this, it's perfectly safe, drinkable tap water, as everywhere here in Japan. So where it is safe to drink, I think there's, like you say, there's no excuse, absolutely no excuse for going with bottled water. So you just need your MyMizu and
Yeah,
and there's good
it's
water available.
fantastic and it's so simple, right? So what I've tried to do recently, which all of us can do, is when you see a place that has joined my Mizu, like these two places on my Instagram, just share and
Yeah.
encourage them and say thank you for doing that. So my Mizu, do you want to explain what my Mizu is very simply, Tova?
Okay, so MyMizu is a social enterprise that started a few years back on a mission to reduce plastic waste, starting with plastic bottles. And so they've got an app that means you can search and find your nearest refill station nearby. And that might be a sort of a tap in a park area, or it could be a shop like the ones that you've got there that have sort of signed up to the scheme as well and are happy to refill your water bottle for free. So
And MyMizu also does great social media.
yeah.
For example, what's up with plastic recycling in Japan? Is it really recycling? They lay it all out here. Material recycling means the plastic is actually reused into other products. Chemical recycling, thermal recycling is the most. So, most of the plastic bottles that you put into the recycling container, you think it's being recycled, but it's not what you think. Most of it is being burned. And then it creates toxic ash from the burning process, which can't be used. It creates pollution. Plus, you have the sourcing of the plastic material, which creates lots of damage as well and ends up in our oceans.
Yes.
So, one of
Yes.
the articles that you shared this morning shows that Japan is number two, the most
Yes.
sending the most plastic waste to Asian countries with
Mm.
less advanced infrastructure than we have for dealing with plastic waste. The
Yeah.
Netherlands is first, Japan is second. This is shocking.
It really is shocking. And again, so much of it is unnecessary. I can understand that, in certain industries and for certain items, plastic is at the moment still the best option for packaging or whatever. But for so many other things, it's not. It's not necessary. There's a lot of plastic used that really doesn't need to be. And so I think, it's great to see articles like this in mainstream media highlighting really, what's going on, what is the data behind that. It's not just sort of looking at, the moral argument, it's looking at the physical issues that this creates, how it's impacting the communities where this is sent to. And I think it's important that we know this and that we're not naive about, when we put our bottles in the recycling thing, just thinking that's our job done. Actually, we need to be a lot more conscious of where this is going as organizations, as individuals, and really sort of think a lot harder about the impact of our actions as we're buying plastic or using plastic, whether that's in designing a product or whether it's sort of as a consumer, what we're buying and how we are accepting it when it's bought, whether we're sort of accepting extra layers of plastic packaging that really aren't necessary.
Yeah, and this really started booming for less developed countries when China refused to take plastic
Yes.
waste from
Yeah.
more advanced, more developed
Yeah.
countries. And that started this habit or strategy of sending plastic waste that we find too difficult in
Mm.
advanced nations to recycle to less developed nations. And it doesn't make sense. It's illogical. It's
Mm.
unethical
Very
and
much so.
creating more trouble in places where they can deal with it less.
Yeah.
We need more common sense in policy making, especially
Yeah.
when it comes to trash. We need to deal with our own, every country, right?
Exactly. Because I mean, there's also the footprint, if you like, the carbon footprint of transporting all of this. It's crazy. Why are we sort of producing more carbon emissions to ship it somewhere else where it'll sit and then create more problems, like you say, whether that's sort of toxic sort of releases into water streams, etc., or microplastics and whatever. But we're transporting this as well. It's crazy. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it really doesn't.
Mm.
You mentioned the Hilton. Whenever I go to the Hilton in Hiroshima as well, I always do a social media post about using my Mizu and filling up my
Yeah.
water bottle. And this is something that the public can do as well to show that we care about this.
Yeah.
And whenever I go to any train station in Japan, I always make sure to ask the staff, ask the information desk, where can I refill my bottle, and create that question, which creates discussion behind
Yeah.
the scenes and hopefully in the planning
Yeah.
of making refill stations. And I know the idea is, oh, we have machines, we just let people buy it. No, it's not
Mm.
good enough.
No.
This is kind of a human rights issue, and we have good drinking water in Japan,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, sort of that relates to another point today, I think, with hotels particularly, right? And sort of travel industry thinking. So Hilton's, I think, a great example of a company that's really doing what it says it's doing, or trying to do. Obviously still got, work to do. But the likes of, that sticker on the mirror in the hotel in Singapore was a great move. And I know here in Japan, the hotels, the Hilton hotels, you won't find plastic bottles of water, which is great. But I want to highlight the flip side of this as well. Something I've experienced a few times recently, and I think you have too, where you go to the hotel and you find the little card, say in the bathroom or on the bed, saying, if you put this card here, we won't change your linen every day, or if you hang your towels on the rack rather than leaving them on the floor, it help us save water because we care about the environment, and we won't change your towels. So last week I was staying at a very prestigious hotel in Tokyo. I'm not going to name and shame them at this point, but I will be sending an email to the management and also leaving a review on the website, because they had that card saying, we care, please don't, if you hang your towels on the rack, we won't change them. So I thought, great, hung my towels on the rack, came back later on, they'd been changed. I thought, okay. So the next day, I was there 4 nights. The next day I put the card actually on top of my towel on the rack. So they would have had to have moved the card in order to change my towel. And obviously they should know what that card means. Came back, towels had still been changed. And the same with the bed linen every single day, despite the fact I was leaving the card on top of it, so they'd have to move it. So it's just not acceptable. This is greenwashing, plain and simple. And I know it's not the first time I've had that experience at a hotel. So
Yeah.
that's something as consumers, customers, we can call that out and just speak to the manager and say, hey, come on. I'm trying here to help you guys do what you say you want to do. So let's
And
be
I think
honest.
as consumers, you can communicate that beforehand too.
Yeah.
So whenever I book a hotel or a guest house, there's always a place to add a mention, right? A
Mm,
comment. And I usually say, I don't need any plastic water bottles in the room, please. I don't need my linen changed and towels every day.
yeah.
If it's multiple nights, I usually follow a vegan diet, like just put it
Mm,
out there.
mm,
And then usually you get a response saying, oh, great. Well, we'll make sure there's something in the buffet,
yeah.
which is vegan, or we'll take bottles out. Oh, we sometimes put that in for convenience. I
Mhm,
mean, you can try to
mm,
you're planting seeds as well as
yeah.
asking for something for you, but you're also, it's like educating from the customer side, which sounds
Very
crazy,
much. Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's something it's possible to do, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. And I think, sort of coming from the corporate side as well, sort of as a company, like I was there last week with a client. They'd booked the hotel for us, and we were using a room in the hotel for the workshop we were doing. And again, we had jugs of water, which was nice to see, rather than, and cups we could reuse, rather than bottles. But they were still trying to give us plastic bottles with our lunch set, and I just sort of very politely just said, sorry, I don't use plastic bottles, thank you. And it was, oh, at it, really surprised reaction. You just explain it's because of the environment, the tap water here is good, I'm perfectly happy with that, thank you. And you've just made them think, right? So I think I like your idea of being proactive about that. I've been maybe too reactive so far, but
No,
yeah,
and
I
the
do that.
communication side, don't
Mm,
underestimate the fact that a lot of businesses I talk to say, oh, customers don't care about that, right?
mm,
So being a customer who communicates clearly, I think is
yeah,
something that's important, part of the
yeah,
process.
absolutely, yeah.
We got great comments from Natasha. Thanks for joining on YouTube. Deb as well. Great to see you guys here. Just downloaded the MyMizu app. Fantastic. Great to
Brilliant.
see. And keep your trash in your own backyard. Absolutely, Natasha. You guys are 100% correct. Another issue I mentioned about the trash issue, right?
Mm,
And the fact that countries like Japan are shipping a lot of our
mm.
plastic waste, which is very irresponsible. And other things like taking your own chopsticks, right?
Yes.
Taking your own fork or spoon or straw.
Mhm.
Like especially places which are so pristine and so sacred and so lovely to visit.
Yeah.
Tourism recently, over tourism has been a big issue.
Mm.
Mount Fuji, there's a convenience store which is now blocking the view of Mount Fuji. There's parts of Kyoto which have been banned for tourists. So it's not only the visitors themselves who
Mhm.
need to show how they want to be better, they're interested in culture, they're not one of the baddies, because there's always going to be a bad apple.
Yeah.
So how can you as a visitor stand out and be one of the welcomed ones, and people
Mhm.
appreciate you coming, is also a key issue right now as
Yeah, yeah.
tourism is booming, right?
Yes, yes, very much so.
Now you had a way to reuse. Oh, one more thing about the water issue.
Yep.
So Japan Times, I'm always impressed. Japan Times, thank you so
Mhm.
much for often focusing on environmental issues, sustainability in Japan issues. And this was an article they did on bottled water, which has more plastic particles than previously thought,
Mm.
which is new research that came out. So even as someone drinking from a plastic water bottle, it's less healthy for you. So
Yeah.
tap water is healthier. So that's something that I think we didn't really know that clearly before.
Yeah.
And if you have a chance to pick up a Japan Times in a big city in Japan, they often have a sustainable Japan section. So a little shout out
Yes.
to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Brilliant work. Keep it up, Japan Times.
Yeah. Now let's talk about your shoe project. This is amazing, Tova.
So this was yesterday. So a good friend of mine, Sarah Goretta, who is also a sustainability expert. She is also very creative and has recently started sort of leather painting to give old items a new lease of life. And so yesterday, a group of us went over to her house, and she's got everything there and knows how to do it. So I had a pair of shoes which I really liked, super comfortable, but they were beginning to look quite shabby. They got marks that I couldn't get off and this kind of thing. So I painted them a different color, and I should be wearing them later today when I go out. And they look and feel like a brand new pair of shoes. So really, sort of, it was great to have an opportunity just to take something that's looking perhaps not nice enough to really use anymore, and just think creatively and go, actually, what could I do with this? And she's done it with bags and sort of wallets and things, and with shoes as well. And it's nice. It's something unique and interesting, and it just means that you can keep on using it for a whole lot longer. Which is obviously a lot more sustainable for your bank account as well as the environment. So lots of good stuff.
And textile waste, I heard, is 10% of global
Yes.
waste issues. So it's a
It's a
big
huge
deal.
amount. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So there's loads of, I mean, in Japan, I know we're very lucky, and I'm sure it's the same elsewhere. You can go to somewhere like Tokyo Hands or Loft, and they've got fabric paints. They've got, I've just seen Natasha's comment there, vegan leather I could paint. Yes. I mean, they've got paints for every kind of surface you can think of. So, I mean, it's worth just looking around and going, well, actually, could I just give this thing a new lease of life, and then off we go. You can use it for another however many years. So yeah.
And also wandering through some of the secondhand shops. Sometimes you find great things at Second Street, Book
Yep.
Off. We have a lot of great secondhand shops here in Japan.
Yep.
I've even heard of some people doing like travel tours in cities where they go to all the great secondhand shops, and it's
Brilliant.
really popular.
Yeah.
And quite often with visitors, we're looking for larger sizes, which is sometimes hard in some of the main brands, right?
Yes.
But you can often find, like,
Mm.
I guess, more used or stretched
Yep.
out, or just given by international people too.
Yep.
So you got a variety of sizes as well.
Yes, very much so. Actually, I took my son to one a couple of days ago because, like all kids, he's got this annoying habit of growing out of things, and the weather's warming up, and we didn't have enough shorts. So, quick trip to Second Street up the road, and came home with, I think, 3 items, grand total of 900 yen. So,
Oh, yeah, it's always a
wonderful.
bargain. Now,
Yeah.
you can sell some of your stuff as well, but you don't get much. Just be warned, you're not going to get a lot of money if you try to sell. Usually a couple hundred yen if you're lucky. But you're doing the right thing,
Yeah.
instead of going to the garbage, which most of it is incinerated, right?
Mm.
There are some companies abroad which are like making bricks or
Yes.
different materials out of used clothing. That would be great to see more of in Japan as well,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Would love to see that happen.
Now, something I just came back from at the beginning of this, well, middle of this month, was the Minka Summit. Now, this was the third time they've done it. And we were back in beautiful rural Kyoto, Hanase village. And we had some really interesting tours around thatch villages. Now, these are thatch straw houses, which are actually being lived in. So when you visit this area in Miyama, that was lovely to see how people are living in and enjoying using them. And we went to a design studio of 2M26, a design couple from France, and they changed their roof, which had tiles and metal on it, into a straw thatch.
Hmm.
And it was lovely talking to them, and not only about learning the process of doing thatch houses, which is wonderful to preserve that culture, but also they said it absorbs all of the humidity. So they're really looking forward to what it'll be like in summer. But the sound of rain, like even
Yeah.
aesthetically pleasing.
Hmm.
And this couple had also rescued some horses in Japan to before they became basashi,
Oh,
horse sashimi, which is a thing in some parts. They also rescued dogs. They built a beautiful stable out of wood. They built beautiful chicken coop. So it was really cool to see their amazing atelier
wonderful.
there. Asby Brown, who has written many books on architecture and sustainable living in Japanese culture, was the keynote speaker. The Minka Mall had this beautiful bento lunch, which was locally sourced and served on a wooden cutting board. So it was zero waste. It was awesome to
Wow.
see.
That's
This was the
amazing.
Minka Mall. They had some workshops for making straw thatch roof, also natural plaster. I had the chance to interview quite a few people and add it to my popular collection of the whole playlist is on reusing old houses and rural life. So this is a growing bit of enthusiasm in Japan, and it's so nice to be around other people who really want to restore or reuse these old houses in some way and
Yeah,
enjoy living in rural Japan, which is a big
yeah.
issue with declining population, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So many positives coming out of that. That's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, you had the chance to go to the Tokyo Rainbow Pride event.
Yes. Yeah, it was incredible. We were lucky enough to have perfect weather the whole weekend. And I think record numbers of people, I was hearing 270,000 people or something came over the weekend to Pride in Yoyogi Park. We had a little bit of rain on ours just in the afternoon when we were out marching. But it was a really great atmosphere, I have to say. It just felt really positive. And as we were doing the march through Tokyo, there was a lot of sort of positive response from the crowds as we went past. That was really nice to see. And there were a lot of companies there. And for me, I mean, I work with big corporates, so I was really happy at first to see pretty much all our clients there, which was great, sort of getting involved and talking about what they're doing inside their organizations and so on. And then I was speaking to a couple of friends afterwards, and one of them was saying, yeah, but is it getting too corporate? Is it, who is Pride for actually? And is this kind of values washing when, are they really doing what they say they're doing? So that was sort of interesting, gave me food for thought, I think. I'd like to highlight one example, though, I saw that was really, I thought, very positive from a company perspective. So Rakuten, who one of our biggest clients, we've been working with them for many years, was talking to them, and they last year had a booth where they had a survey going on that anyone attending Pride could take part in. And they have a large travel business, Rakuten Travel, right? And they work with a lot of big and small sort of hoteliers and restaurants and stuff across Japan. And so they gathered all this data on how inclusive is your experience as an LGBTQ plus member, how have you been received, any challenges you've had, what would make it more comfortable, more inclusive, and so on. And then, so that was last year, and they got about 900 responses or so. And then they used that data to create sort of guidelines and sort of ways to improve on the experience for that they shared then with their whole network of travel sort of community. So they're actually looking at how can we build this into the business. And yes, it's good to be seen at Pride and we show that we're actively doing something, but they're also making sure that it has a real impact in the business and is improving things for the community. So I thought that was a really nice example to see if they're not just sort of looking just inside their own company, they're actually looking at how can we use our influence, how can we use the knowledge we can get here and actually make things better across our whole value chain. So it was really a very positive example of what can be done, I think.
And so important right now as the Japanese population is declining and we are having more international long-term residents
Yeah.
coming in. We need to talk about inclusion and diversity and
Yeah.
acceptance. And I think on the day to day, most people would say they don't have a problem, but
Mm.
you also need the rules and regulations and guidelines and company infrastructure to also be inclusive and in including diversity
Yeah.
in their plans and infrastructure, right?
Yeah, yeah, very much. And great comment from Natasha. There's in that, it does seem like an ad parade sometimes. You want to see in the community all year long, and couldn't agree more. So, whatever we're talking about, whether it's DEI stuff or whether it's sustainability efforts, it's not just for Earth Day or just for Pride. I mean, this needs to be ongoing, absolutely part of the way things are done, right?
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. And I have a friend here locally who helps legally when you have a same-sex couple and one of them gets a job in Japan and you want to come over as a committed same-sex couple. How do you get a visa for the partner?
Mm.
There's a lot of those issues, which,
Yep.
you know, the government needs to also be thinking about how to
Yes.
be more inclusive
Yeah.
and include differences in the international community that maybe are not standard yet in
Yeah.
Japan, right?
And that's where companies can really help, right? Using their power, their connections with, Keidan Ren, the business community here, or to push for policy change. Because I know we've had friends that have had this issue, a couple who were legally married in the Netherlands. One was transferred over here, and obviously his visa was fine because it was the work visa, but then trying to get the visa for his husband was incredibly difficult. But that's where the companies can say, look, we want to bring this talent. Japan needs the talent to come and work here. But if the policies are just making it incredibly difficult to do that, then the companies can then use that, the reach and the leverage that they have to advocate for change. So it'd be good to see more of that happening as well.
Absolutely. The name of her business, if anybody needs support, is Shacho Bell. And she speaks English and a bit of Spanish as well as Japanese. So I'll put
Fantastic.
that in the link below.
Yeah, great one.
Yeah. So we have a few minutes left. Was there something we haven't touched on yet?
I think the only thing for me was getting out and about in nature during
Oh,
Golden Week.
yes.
We've got a
Yes,
few
yes.
days off.
So it was Earth Day, and a
Yes.
lot of people can get out and enjoy Earth Day every day, of course, including when you have holidays with your kids.
Yes.
So tell us about it.
So a couple of days ago, it was really rubbish weather actually, and so I was watching with my kids something on the National Geographic Channel about sort of bugs and things, and they were looking at ant colonies and how they sort of communicate with each other and interact and so on. And then we were in the park when the weather was beautiful 2 days ago, and the kids spent, I don't know, an hour or more just sitting watching this ant colony, just sort of under a tree where we were sat eating our lunch. And we put some little crumbs down from our food, and we were just watching them. Then, sort of, obviously, one scout ant found it and was then going back and communicating with the others. And we could see them doing the things that we'd seen on the documentary the night before. And it just kept them absolutely absorbed and fascinated, as you could see there for ages, just watching these ants carrying off the bits of food. And I thought it's wonderful to get out and about and see that, what you see on the TV is happening all around us there. We live in an amazing world. So it was really wonderful just to get out and enjoy and appreciate that. And hopefully if people can do more of that and get connections, feel that emotional connection to the world that we're living in, and not just sort of see it as something we're viewing from the outside, then it keeps people engaged and hopefully sort of looking more to what they can do to protect it. So yeah, it
Yeah,
was a good day.
absolutely. And I think, like I've started carrying around a plastic garbage bag, like reuse some of
Mm.
the plastic bread bags that you get,
Yes.
right? And then just have that in my pocket. And if I see things along the way as I'm doing guiding, I'll pick it up.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll collect trash from guests because they're so frustrated with having no trash cans everywhere. And I, as a guide, I know where the trash cans are, you know?
Mm.
Like that's an added service. I'll take your garbage and I'll dispose of it for you, you know?
Maybe we need an app for that as well. MyMizu, if you're listening. My garbage.
Where are the trash
Where
cans?
can we
Yeah,
get rid of
yeah.
this? Yeah. Yeah.
Funny. But definitely we've got a big long holiday coming up, right? Some people have already started because yesterday was a holiday. But 3, 4, 5, I think, are officially the Golden Week holidays, right?
Yep, and Monday is off as well because the 5th is normally a national holiday, right? A day off, but it
That's
falls on a
right.
weekend, so
Ah.
they've made Monday a holiday too. So 4-day weekend coming up, so a good chance to get out there and see what's going on in the
Any
undergrowth.
events happening in your area? In Hiroshima, we always have a big flower festival. The whole Peace Boulevard is closed. We have food stalls and parades, and it's lots and lots
Yeah.
of fun.
I'm sure there are. I can't say I actually know of any going on. I'm meeting up with friends for Spartan training and barbecue. So just to relax and do a bit of exercise and then undo it all by eating too much but afterwards, but never mind.
Very nice. Sometimes it's nice not to go too far because you don't have to deal with
Mm.
crowds on trains or traffic, right? So if you can find something locally that's fun, that's always
Yeah.
nice.
And of course, better on your impact for the travel. So all good.
Oh, nice. You got a shout out from Natasha. You're such a cool mom. I'm a nanny and we look at bugs all the time. I think this is one of the nice things about
Thank
Japan
you.
is that kids are taught to appreciate bugs, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, it's great. The kids, I mean, my son a few weeks ago with school was sort of doing the machi tanken where they go out and they look at how many different plant species or animal species they see. And then I think that's wonderful. So yeah, we can build on that as well as parents or nannies. So yeah.
And we had a question. What is Spartan training? Tova is a super athlete. This is an endurance
I've
race,
got,
right?
but
Team
it's
endurance race.
it's obstacle course racing, and I do it with a team. We're a bit of a motley bunch. We're not at all competitive, but we have a lot of fun, and it gives us just an incentive to keep a bit more active and fitter. So
But it's a
yeah, if you don't
crazy
know
obstacle
Spartan,
course. Yeah, it's
yeah,
I hope you enjoy it, but it's also a great way to keep in shape. Good for
yes.
you. All right, so we'll end it there. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you again, Tova. Lots of great ideas there, some challenges, but also some points of positivity and some strategies that you might be able to implement. So, if anything stood out or you have any comments or questions, please make sure to add them below, and we'll get back to you.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Enjoy your holiday. See you next month.